The warm California sun had just begun to set over Beverly Hills when a sleek Tesla Model S pulled up to the valet stand of Le Petit Jardin, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the area. The car's electric motor hummed quietly as it came to a stop, drawing the usual admiring glances from passers-by. But today was different. It wasn't just another wealthy Silicon Valley executive stepping out. It was Elon Musk himself. As he emerged from the car, he wore his usual casual attire, dark jeans, a black t-shirt, and what would become the center of controversy, a bright red MAGA hat. The valet's eyes widened slightly, but he maintained his professional demeanor, taking the keys with a polite nod. The restaurant's glass doors reflected the golden hour light as Musk approached the entrance. Inside, the sophisticated atmosphere was punctuated by soft jazz music and the gentle clink of fine china. The host's station was staffed by a young professional in an impeccably pressed black suit who had been working there for 3 years and prided himself on maintaining the restaurant's exclusive atmosphere. As Musk stepped up to the podium, the host's welcoming smile faltered. His eyes fixed on the red hat, and his expression shifted from professional courtesy to visible disapproval. The bustling restaurant seemed to quiet down as nearby diners began to notice the developing situation. "I'm sorry, sir," the host said, his voice carrying a slight tremor but maintaining firmness. "We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, and I'm afraid we cannot accommodate you this evening." His hands clasped tightly in front of him, knuckles white with tension. The silence that followed was deafening. Other diners had stopped mid-conversation, their forks hovering above their plates. A few had already pulled out their phones, sensing the historical significance of the moment. The maitre d', who was handling a wine selection at a nearby table, froze in place, the bottle of Bordeaux still tilted in his hands. Musk's response was surprisingly measured. He simply raised an eyebrow, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Is there a dress code I'm unaware of?" he asked calmly, though his eyes held a hint of something that suggested this wouldn't be the end of the matter. The host stood his ground. "Sir, this is a private establishment, and we have the right to maintain certain standards." His voice grew stronger as other staff members gathered behind him, some nodding in agreement, others looking uncomfortable with the situation. By now, the scene had captured everyone's attention. A couple at a window table were live-streaming the encounter, their whispered commentary barely audible over the restaurant's ambient music. The chef had even emerged from the kitchen, his white coat pristine as he watched the scene unfold from behind the service door. Musk nodded slowly, taking in the situation. Instead of arguing or creating a scene, he simply turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing on the marble floor. As he left, he paused briefly at the door, looking back at the now buzzing restaurant with what appeared to be thoughtful calculation rather than anger. Within minutes, videos of the incident began circulating on social media. Phones throughout the restaurant lit up with notifications as the story spread like wildfire across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The evening sun had barely set, but already the incident was becoming the talk of not just Beverly Hills, but the entire online world. In the parking lot, as the valet brought his car around, Musk checked his phone, watching the social media storm brewing. Rather than immediately joining the online discourse as many expected him to do, he simply pocketed his device and drove away, leaving behind a restaurant full of people who had no idea that this was just the beginning of a much larger story. By nightfall, the video had gone viral, with millions of views and shares. News vans began appearing outside the restaurant, their bright lights illuminating the now-closed establishment as reporters delivered live updates about the incident. Inside their homes, the restaurant's staff members watched their phones blow up with notifications, unaware that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't imagine. Within hours of the incident, social media platforms were ablaze with discussions, debates, and divided opinions. The original video, captured by a diner at the restaurant, had already reached over 10 million views. People were sharing it with captions ranging from "stand against hate" to "cancel culture gone too far." Twitter became ground zero for the debate. Hashtags like #Muskate and #LePetitScandal started trending worldwide. What made the situation even more intriguing was Musk's unexpected silence. The man known for his quick Twitter responses and witty comebacks hadn't posted a single word about the incident. News channels picked up the story, running it on their primetime slots. Political commentators debated the legality and ethics of refusing service based on political expression. Some defended the restaurant's right to refuse service, while others argued it set a dangerous precedent. The restaurant's social media pages were flooded with both support and criticism. Their Yelp page had to be temporarily frozen due to an overwhelming influx of politically charged reviews. Their phone lines were constantly ringing with people trying to either make reservations to show support or express their disapproval. Local food bloggers and influencers started sharing their past experiences at the restaurant, adding fuel to the already raging fire. Some praised the establishment's bold stance, while others announced they would never dine there again. The controversy had effectively split the culinary community down the middle. The restaurant's owner, watching everything unfold from his office, called an emergency meeting with his PR team. They drafted a careful statement. Le Petit Jardin has always stood for inclusivity and respect. Our staff members have the autonomy to maintain the atmosphere we've cultivated over years. We stand by our team's decisions. This statement only intensified the debate. Business analysts began discussing the potential financial impact on the restaurant. Some predicted it would become a symbol of resistance and thrive, while others warned of impending bankruptcy. Meanwhile, Musk's continued silence was becoming a story in itself. People began speculating about his next move. Would he build a competing restaurant? Would he sue? His followers kept checking his social media accounts, waiting for his signature wit to address the situation. The incident sparked broader discussions about political division in America. Think pieces appeared in major newspapers analyzing how a simple dinner reservation had turned into a national conversation about freedom of expression and private business rights. By the end of the day, the story had reached international news outlets. European and Asian media picked it up, offering their own perspectives on American political culture. The restaurant had unknowingly become a global symbol of the ongoing culture wars. Late that night, as the media frenzy continued, a small group of investment bankers noticed some unusual financial movements. A newly formed LLC had begun making inquiries about restaurant properties in Beverly Hills. But in the chaos of the viral story, few paid attention to these subtle business maneuvers. The restaurant staff went home that evening, exhausted from a day of fielding calls and dealing with the media circus. The host who had refused Musk's service was both celebrated and vilified online, with supporters offering to start a GoFundMe for him, while critics demanded his firing. Security cameras captured a group of people in business attire entering the restaurant long after closing time, carrying folders and laptops. They spent several hours inside, but their presence went unnoticed amidst the social media storm. As the city slept, algorithms continued to push the story to more and more users. Comment sections filled with heated debates and memes about the incident flooded every platform. But through it all, Musk's Twitter remained surprisingly quiet, leading many to wonder what would happen next. The first day of the controversy was ending, but nobody realized that all of this, the social media storm, the news coverage, the public debate, was exactly what Musk had anticipated. As he sat in his home office that night, watching the chaos unfold on multiple screens, a slight smile played on his lips. Tomorrow would bring an even bigger surprise. The next morning, the owner of Le Petit Jardin called an urgent staff meeting. The elegant dining room, usually filled with the gentle clinking of fine china and sophisticated conversation, was now packed with nervous employees. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. The owner, looking tired from a sleepless night, stood before his team. His usual confident demeanor seemed slightly shaken as he cleared his throat to address the crowd. As you all know, yesterday's incident has created quite a situation, he began, his voice echoing in the quiet room. He went on to defend the host's actions, emphasizing the restaurant's commitment to its values. We've always believed in standing up for what we think is right, he declared, receiving nods of approval from some staff members while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The restaurant's legal team presented their analysis, assuring everyone that they were within their rights to refuse service. They cited previous cases and precedents, their voices steady but their expressions betraying underlying concern about potential consequences. As the meeting progressed, the PR team shared their strategy for handling the media storm. They prepared a more detailed statement, explaining the restaurant's position. Le Petit Jardin has been a cornerstone of Beverly Hills dining for over 2 decades. Our success has been built on creating an atmosphere of mutual respect and understanding. While we acknowledge Mr. Musk's right to his political expressions, we similarly reserve our right to maintain our establishment's atmosphere. The statement went out immediately, spreading across news outlets and social media platforms. Journalists camped outside began reporting live, their cameras capturing the tension building around the establishment. Throughout the morning, supporters and protesters began gathering outside. The police had to set up barriers to maintain order, their presence adding to the circus-like atmosphere developing around the restaurant. Inside, the staff tried to prepare for the evening service, but their hearts weren't in it. The host from yesterday's incident sat in a corner, scrolling through his phone, reading countless messages of both support and criticism. His colleagues offered words of encouragement, but the weight of his decision was visible in his posture. The kitchen staff worked methodically, preparing for dinner service, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables and sizzling of pans, providing a strange normality to an otherwise extraordinary day. The chef, usually vocal about everything, worked in unusual silence, perhaps contemplating the impact this would have on his culinary reputation. Around midday, a group of suited individuals arrived at the restaurant. They carried briefcases and had the distinct air of corporate lawyers. The owner was called away to his office, where he remained for several hours. Staff members passing by could hear muffled discussions, but nobody knew what was being discussed. The afternoon wore on, and reservations began canceling one after another. Some loyal customers called to express their support, but many others cited the controversy as their reason for staying away. The maitre d' spent hours reorganizing the evening seating chart, trying to salvage what was looking to be a very quiet night. As evening approached, the owner emerged from his office looking pale. He gathered his management team for a private meeting, the contents of which remained unknown to the rest of the staff. Whatever was discussed in that room seemed to have a profound effect on everyone present. The sun was setting when rumors began circulating among the staff about significant changes coming to Le Petit Jardin. Some whispered about new ownership, others about potential lawsuits. The uncertainty added to the already tense atmosphere. By the time dinner service was about to begin, the owner had locked himself in his office, refusing to speak to anyone, even his most trusted managers. The staff carried on with their duties, but there was a palpable sense that something big was about to happen. Nobody realized that several floors above, in a downtown law office, papers were being signed that would completely change the future of Le Petit Jardin. The next day would bring revelations that would shock everyone, from the proudest chef to the most junior busboy, and transform their understanding of the consequences of their actions. As dawn broke over Beverly Hills, Elon Musk sat in a sleek conference room high above the city. Around him, lawyers worked quietly but efficiently, finalizing the details of what would become one of his most strategic business moves yet. Through a complex network of shell companies and discreet negotiations, Musk had managed to purchase Le Petit Jardin overnight. The purchase was executed through several layers of corporate entities, making it nearly impossible for anyone to trace the transaction back to him. The paperwork was meticulous, with every detail carefully considered to ensure the takeover would be complete and legally binding. In the room, financial advisors reviewed spreadsheets showing the restaurant's value, while legal teams prepared the necessary documents for the transfer of ownership. Musk's expression remained neutral as he signed paper after paper, each signature bringing him closer to his goal. The restaurant's previous owner had been made an offer he couldn't refuse, a sum significantly above market value, presented with an urgency that suggested refusing wasn't really an option. The pressure of the viral incident and the potential long-term damage to the restaurant's reputation had made the decision easier. Meanwhile, at Le Petit Jardin, the staff arrived for another day of work, completely unaware of the change in ownership. The host who had refused Musk's service straightened his tie in the mirror, steeling himself for another day of potential confrontations with angry customers or overzealous supporters. The kitchen staff prepared for lunch service, chopping vegetables and preparing sauces with their usual precision. The chef reviewed the day's specials, trying to maintain normalcy despite the circus that continued outside their doors. Around mid-morning, a team of corporate analysts arrived at the restaurant, claiming to be conducting a routine financial audit. They moved through the space quietly, taking notes and photographs, measuring spaces, and reviewing operations. The staff found their presence unusual, but were too busy preparing for service to pay much attention. Throughout the day, more suited individuals filtered through the restaurant. They studied everything from the wine cellar to the kitchen layout, from the reservation system to the employee schedules. Their presence created an atmosphere of uncertainty among the staff, who whispered theories about potential corporate takeovers or health department investigations. In the back office, its specialists worked discreetly, updating systems and making subtle changes to the restaurant's digital infrastructure. New security cameras were installed, and the point-of-sale system received a mysterious update. The restaurant's social media accounts went mysteriously quiet, with all scheduled posts suddenly suspended. The PR team that had been so vocal the day before was nowhere to be found, and calls from reporters went unanswered. By late afternoon, delivery trucks began arriving with new supplies, everything from new linens to updated menus, all still sealed in boxes and stored away from curious eyes. The staff's questions about these deliveries were met with vague responses about upcoming renovations. As evening approached, an atmosphere of anticipation filled the air. Something was different. The usual pre-service staff meeting was postponed, and new security personnel had taken up positions at various points throughout the restaurant. The previous owner's office had been quietly cleared out, with all personal items removed and replaced with modern, minimalist furniture. New artwork appeared on the walls, featuring sophisticated photographs of sustainable technology and space exploration. None of the employees realized that their jobs were safe. In fact, their benefits were about to improve significantly. The restaurant's new owner had plans not just to maintain the establishment's reputation for excellence, but to transform it into something entirely new. As the sun set over Beverly Hills, everything was in place for the next day's dramatic revelation. The staff went home that evening, still wondering about all the strange activities they'd witnessed, unaware that they were about to become part of one of the most talked-about stories in recent memory. The next morning dawned bright and clear in Beverly Hills. The same Tesla Model S pulled up to Le Petit Jardin, and once again, Elon Musk stepped out wearing the infamous red hat. The valet attendant's hands trembled slightly as he took the keys, his mind racing with memories of what had happened just 2 days ago. Inside, the host, the same one who had refused Musk's service, stood at his familiar position behind the podium. His colleague nudged him as Musk approached the entrance, and the host's face paled visibly. He straightened his tie nervously, preparing himself for another confrontation. As Musk pushed through the glass doors, the morning sunlight streamed in behind him. The host took a deep breath, his hands gripping the reservation book tightly. "I'm sorry, sir, but as I mentioned before, we cannot." Before he could finish his sentence, a voice called out from behind him. "Actually, we can and we will." A woman in a crisp business suit stepped forward, holding a leather portfolio. The restaurant staff gathered around, curious about this interruption to what they thought would be another viral moment. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice carrying across the now silent restaurant, "I'd like to introduce you to your new owner, Mr. Elon Musk." The words hung in the air like suspended crystal, and for a moment, nobody moved or spoke. The host's face cycled through various emotions: shock, disbelief, and then something close to fear. His hands dropped from the podium, and the reservation book he'd been clutching fell to the floor with a soft thud. Musk stepped forward, a slight smile playing on his lips. "I believe you have a table for me today," he asked quietly. The irony of the moment wasn't lost on anyone present. Several staff members had their phones out, already recording what they knew would be another viral moment. The woman in the business suit continued addressing the staff, explaining the ownership change and immediately putting to rest any fears about job security. "Everyone's position is safe," she assured them. "In fact, we're implementing improved benefits and working conditions starting today." The chef emerged from the kitchen, his white coat pristine, and stood watching the scene unfold. His initial look of concern gradually transformed into curiosity as he heard about plans to maintain the restaurant's high culinary standards while introducing innovative new elements. Throughout the morning, more corporate representatives arrived, carrying folders filled with documents outlining the changes to come. The staff gathered in small groups, reading through new contracts that included better healthcare coverage, increased wages, and more flexible scheduling options. The host, still processing the dramatic turn of events, found himself face to face with Musk. Instead of the anger or retribution he had feared, he encountered something unexpected, an invitation to dialogue. Musk gestured to a nearby table, indicating he wanted to have a conversation. As they sat down, other staff members watched in amazement. The discussion that followed wasn't about punishment or revenge, but about understanding different perspectives and finding common ground. Musk listened as much as he spoke, showing genuine interest in the host's viewpoint. By lunchtime, the story had already hit social media, but with a completely different tone than the original incident. Videos of Musk's return and the revelation of ownership spread rapidly, accompanied by hashtags like #PlotTwist and #UnexpectedEnding. The afternoon brought a flood of reservation requests as people clamored to be part of this unexpected story of transformation. The phone lines lit up continuously, and the online booking system crashed several times due to overwhelming traffic. As evening approached, the staff began to see their workplace in a new light. The tension that had filled the air for the past 2 days had been replaced with a sense of possibility. Even those who had strongly supported the original decision to refuse service found themselves reconsidering their positions. The host, who had begun the day fearing for his job, ended it with a new understanding of how differences could be bridged. As he watched Musk leave that evening, he realized that sometimes the biggest lessons come from the most unexpected situations. Over the next few weeks, Le Petit Jardin underwent a remarkable transformation. The physical changes were subtle at first. New lighting systems were installed, the dining room layout was optimized for better conversation flow, and cutting-edge kitchen equipment appeared. But the real transformation was happening in the restaurant's culture. Musk implemented a unique policy. The restaurant would become a space for open dialogue and understanding. The traditional dining room was redesigned to include special sections called conversation corners, where guests from different backgrounds could choose to share a table and engage in meaningful discussions. The menu evolved too. While maintaining its French culinary excellence, new dishes were added that told stories of unity and shared experiences. Each menu item came with a brief description of its cultural significance and history, encouraging diners to learn about different traditions while enjoying their meals. The staff underwent specialized training in conflict resolution and cultural sensitivity. The host who had once refused Musk's service became an integral part of this training, sharing his personal journey of growth and understanding. His story became a powerful example of how perspectives can change through open dialogue. Technology played a key role in the transformation. New tablets at each table offered conversation starter topics, historical facts, and even real-time translation services for international guests. The goal was to make every dinner an opportunity for connection and learning. The kitchen staff embraced the changes enthusiastically. The chef began hosting weekly Unity Through Food events, where guests could learn about different cooking techniques while discussing various viewpoints on current issues. These sessions quickly became the most sought-after reservations in Beverly Hills. Private dining rooms were converted into discussion salons, where small groups could gather for facilitated conversations about challenging topics. These rooms featured smart boards for presenting data and facts, helping to ground emotional discussions in concrete information. The restaurant's dress code was reimagined. Instead of traditional formal wear requirements, guests were encouraged to dress in ways that expressed their identity and beliefs, as long as they were willing to engage respectfully with others who might dress differently. The wine cellar was expanded to include selections from regions often overlooked in fine dining, each bottle carefully chosen to tell a story of tradition and culture. Wine tastings became opportunities for guests to learn about different regions of the world and their perspectives. Social media influencers and celebrities began flocking to the restaurant, not just for the exceptional food, but for the unique experience. Videos of unexpected friendships forming between people of opposing viewpoints went viral, creating a new kind of social media trend focused on understanding rather than division. The staff's improved working conditions led to higher morale and better service. Healthcare benefits were expanded, wages were increased, and a profit-sharing program was implemented. Happy employees translated into a better dining experience for guests. Local schools began requesting field trips to learn about the restaurant's approach to conflict resolution. The kitchen became a classroom where students could learn about different cultures through food while practicing the art of respectful disagreement. Business magazines featured Le Petit Jardin as a case study in innovative management and social impact. The restaurant's unique approach to dining and discourse was being studied by business schools and cultural institutions alike. As weeks turned into months, the restaurant's waitlist grew longer, not just because of its excellent food, but because people wanted to be part of this social experiment. What had started as a viral moment of conflict had evolved into a blueprint for how businesses could contribute to social harmony. The transformation wasn't just about changing a restaurant, it was about creating a model for how spaces could be designed to bring people together despite their differences. Le Petit Jardin had become more than a dining establishment, it was now a laboratory for human connection and understanding. 6 months after the dramatic ownership change at Le Petit Jardin, the restaurant had become a symbol of transformation and understanding. The same host who had once refused Musk's service now stood proudly at monthly bridge-building dinners, where he shared his story of personal growth and change. These special events brought together people from all walks of life, business leaders, activists, politicians, and everyday citizens. The conversations that unfolded over perfectly prepared meals had led to real changes in the community. Business partnerships formed between former rivals, community projects launched from dinner table discussions, and friendships blossomed across political divides. The success was measurable. Local crime rates had dropped in areas where community leaders had met at the restaurant and formed action plans. Small businesses reported increased cooperation after their owners participated in networking events at Le Petit Jardin. Schools that had implemented the restaurant's conflict resolution model saw fewer incidents of bullying. Major news networks regularly featured the restaurant's story as a rare example of positive change in a divided world. Documentary filmmakers captured the conversations that happened around the tables, sharing these moments of connection with audiences worldwide. The restaurant's waiting list had grown to 6 months, but a portion of tables was always reserved for local community members who couldn't afford the regular prices. These community tables became some of the most vibrant spots in the restaurant, where people from different economic backgrounds shared meals and perspectives. The kitchen had evolved into a training ground for young chefs from underprivileged backgrounds. The head chef, who had initially been skeptical of the changes, now ran a prestigious apprenticeship program that combined culinary training with lessons in cultural understanding and communication. Even the restaurant's critics had to acknowledge its impact. Those who had initially called for boycotts found themselves intrigued by the stories of transformation coming from within its walls. Many eventually came to dine there, some even becoming regular patrons. The original viral video that had started it all became a teaching tool in business schools, showing how conflict could be transformed into opportunity. Students studied how a moment of division had been turned into a movement for unity. As the sun set on another busy evening, Musk sat at his usual corner table, watching the diverse crowd of diners engaged in animated conversations. The host approached him with a smile, no longer nervous but confident and proud. They had both learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's showing people a better way forward. The soft lighting illuminated tables where former adversaries now broke bread together, where difficult conversations happened with respect and understanding, and where the simple act of sharing a meal had become a powerful tool for change. Visiting dignitaries and world leaders began requesting private dinners at Le Petit Jardin, not for the prestigious address or the excellent food, but for the chance to experience this unique model of conflict resolution and community building. The restaurant's success sparked a movement, with other establishments around the world beginning to adopt similar approaches. What had started as a controversial moment in a Beverly Hills restaurant had grown into a global conversation about how spaces could be designed to bring people together rather than keep them apart. Le Petit Jardin had become more than just a restaurant. It was a testament to the power of turning conflict into opportunity, of choosing understanding over division, and of using good food and conversation to build bridges between people. The simple act of refusing service to a billionaire had unexpectedly led to a revolution in how people could learn to disagree while still respecting each other's humanity.